Hi, this is JP Morgan. In today's slanted lens lesson, we're going to take a step way back to the very basics of a one light setup. Let's take a look at what it takes to light a face. Everything in the world is a ball, a cube, or a cylinder. A face is a ball, a round surface. Because it's a round surface, as we set our key light, we get a nice highlight across the face. We have a nice shadow line there where it drops into deep shadow away from the light. As we fill this shadow side, we create what's known as the core. This is the core, the area of transition between filled shadow to highlight. If you fill in that core too much or too broadly, it becomes very uninteresting. We want a nice ratio of highlight into shadow where it fills up to that core but doesn't wipe it out completely. The problem is most people are, even though we are all a round type face, we have features. So when you add a feature, in this case, when you have a nose, you're going to want to get your light up a little higher than this one is in order to create a bit of a Rembrandt on the side. So if I lift this light up just a bit, I start to get a bit of a Rembrandt on the side. This would give us a nice triangle on the cheek here if this was stuck next to our ball. The interesting thing about our setup here is we have the highlight side on the ball, and in the background, we've turned our light just so that we get a nice shadow side on that side of the ball that's lit. I'm going to rotate this to where the shadow from the softbox is going to hit right along the line of the shadow of the person's face. So I will have a nice highlight side on the background that separates the shadow side of the face. I'll have a nice shadow side on the background that separates the highlight side of the face. There's the basics of a one light setup, the way that you get a person to stand out from the background, like both the background and the person, with a single light. And then we simply bring in a fill card to fill in the shadow side, not obliterating the core, giving us a nice core transition to the front. Let's take a quick look at a person's face in here and see how these principles apply. I'm loving the Kessler crane today. It's giving us a lot of great shots. So we've got Tiffany Taylor here on set with us today. She's gorgeous, so it makes this very, very easy to do. We have the softbox here. It has the face off. That gives us a very hard light. I'm doing this in order to see on the background exactly what it's doing. It's a little more obvious that way. So we have the highlight side of her face. It transitions to the shadow side of her face. We have the highlight side on the backdrop, which gives us a nice contrast to the dark side of her face. And we have the shadow side on the backdrop that gives us a nice separation to the highlight side of her face. What we're doing today is we're shooting on the Canon 1DC. So everything we're shooting is video, and we're going to pull stills of the different shots that we do here of Tiffany. We're going to have her move her hair around. We're going to do some interesting thing with her hair and movement. We're going to look at those things. So we won't shoot any stills today. It'll all be pulls from video. So I'm going to go ahead and put the softbox face on, and then we're going to get this lit so we get a nice shot of her. If you put the key light in the right place, it allows your model to turn her head from a Rembrandt into a butterfly into a split light. This gives your talent a lot of room to move and has nice light in that entire rotation. For our key light, we're going to use a Dynalite 1600 watt pack with an MH2065 head. We're using a medium Photoflex softbox as our key light. I love this setup because this head from Dynalite gives me the ability to use all of my strobe modifiers with a hot light. It gives me a nice key light for my talent. Our background is a white seamless. As a fill, we're going to use a P22 panel to bounce a little light back in on her face. Using a fan can be a little tricky. I have found that you turn the fan down very low and then you point it slightly up from the ground. It gives you the best look for the hair. You know, if you run it too high, it's going to dry out their eyes and really it's tough for the talent to work underneath. I am very excited today to be shooting with Tamron's new 70 to 200 millimeter 2.8 zoom lens. This is a great SP lens. It's very sharp and a great companion with our 1DC. Shooting video on the 1DC and then pulling stills was quite a new experience, to say the least, for me. You know, I found it a little hard because I was always wondering, did I get something? Am I getting something? Without the ability to look back at each frame and see exactly what I was getting, I found it a little bit frustrating. It was hard. That 50th of a second gave us a lot of motion blur, even on a simple move of her head. We're going to talk about this more in our next lesson, pulling stills using the 1DC. Here's some of the stills that we pulled from our first setup. We're now going to push our makeup a little bit, make it a little more interesting, and come back and shoot some more. Terry Groves of Makeup Magic did a great job, kind of gave us this little Egyptian look. We did a few shots of her with a small hat on. I thought that was very cool. Jolene brought a piece of sequined material that was very interesting just to shoot through. It even became more interesting as we brought it closer to the camera. At that point, it became a diffusion material that just gave us a nice soft diffusion across the whole image. As you get it that close and shoot through it, it softens everything in the image. This is an old trick. People used to wrap hose, nylon, all kinds of things over the lens to give this kind of soft look. Here's a couple of images looking through that material. This has been a great shoot today. You know, sometimes it's very elegant to just go back to the basics. Use a single light to create a very nice light on our talent's face. It has a very elegant look. I hope you had as much fun as I did today. Keep those cameras rolling and keep on clicking.